Your liver doesn't hurt. It doesn't warn you. It doesn't send you a text message saying it's being destroyed. While you're eating, working, sleeping, and thinking everything is fine, it's accumulating fat cell by cell, day after day, in absolute silence. And the scariest part isn't even that. The scariest part is that most people only discover the damage when it's already in an advanced stage, when inflammation is already set in, when fibrosis has already started, when the window for reversal is already closing. I'm Dr. Sarah Mitchell. I've been a specialist in internal medicine and clinical hepatology for over 18 years. And what weighs on me most throughout this career isn't seeing disease. It's seeing disease that could have been avoided. It's seeing people who had all the information within reach, but no one took the trouble to explain it to them clearly and directly. That is why I am here today. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the 7 foods that are currently destroying your liver. Foods that are probably in your fridge or your pantry right now. And then I'm going to reveal 11 allies, strategies, and habits that science has proven are capable of reversing liver fat in its early and moderate stages. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear might be the most important information for your health this year. But before anything else, I need to give you a number that will change the way you look at this topic. According to data from the CDC and the American Liver Foundation, it's estimated that approximately 1 in 4 adults in the United States has non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. 1 in 4. And the vast majority have no idea. Think about that while you listen to this. It is very likely that someone in your closest circle has this condition without even suspecting it. Maybe that someone is you. And when liver fat advances to inflammation, what we doctors call steatohepatitis, the risk of progression to fibrosis, cirrhosis, and even liver cancer becomes real. It's not a hypothesis. It's what clinical data shows, publication after publication. The good news, and you need to listen to this carefully, is that the liver is one of the organs with the greatest capacity for regeneration in the entire human body. With the right changes, especially in the early and moderate phases, it can recover significantly. But for that to happen, you need to stop what is destroying it every single day. And this is where our list begins. Let's start with the 7 villains. The 7 foods you need to eliminate or drastically reduce if you want to give your liver a real fighting chance. Villain number 7, ultra-processed foods. Frozen pizza, canned meats, instant soups, microwave meals, packaged snacks. The more industrialized a food is, the further it is from its natural state, the more work it imposes on your liver. Think of it this way. Your liver works like a water treatment plant. When relatively clean water enters, the plant works smoothly, without effort. When a mixture of degraded fats, sugars, preservatives, dyes, and flavor enhancers enters, the plant starts to collapse. The filters clog. Production slows down. The system accumulates what it cannot process. A study published recently in the British Journal of Nutrition analyzed the eating patterns of thousands of adults and found a direct association between high consumption of ultra-processed foods and an increase in liver fat markers, regardless of body weight. In other words, even if you aren't obese, you can have fatty liver because of ultra-processed foods. The rule I give my patients is simple. Peel more, unwrap less. The more time a food spent in a factory before it reached you, the more it hurts your liver. Period. Villain number 6, excessive saturated fats. And I need to have a frank conversation with you here because social media is full of content saying that lard, coconut oil, and animal fats are miracles and that you can eat them without any limit. I understand that these trends seem tempting, but when we talk specifically about fatty liver associated with metabolic syndrome, the scientific data doesn't let us ignore reality. Excess saturated fat raises LDL, the so-called bad cholesterol, and feeds the inflammatory process that the liver is already suffering from. And fatty liver almost never appears alone. It almost always comes accompanied by high blood pressure, altered triglycerides, and insulin resistance. Putting excess saturated fat into that equation is like throwing gasoline on a fire that's already starting. I'm not saying you should be afraid of every drop of fat. I'm saying you should prioritize the good fats: extra virgin olive oil, avocado, oily fish. The difference is in the quality, not just the total quantity. Villain number 5, alcohol. There is no negotiation here. If you have fatty liver, alcohol needs to leave your life. 0. There is no such thing as one glass of wine at dinner doesn't hurt. There is no only on the weekends. The liver is already overloaded. It's already storing fat it shouldn't be storing. It's already inflamed. And alcohol is processed almost exclusively by the liver. When you drink, you are forcing an already stressed organ to work even harder. It's like asking someone with a high fever to go run a half marathon. Do me a favor and leave a comment. Did you already know that alcohol harms the liver even if you aren't an alcoholic? Write it down below. I want to understand what people already know before they get to this video. Villain number 4, industrial condiments and sauces. This is the hidden poison that most people completely ignore. Soy sauce, ketchup, store-bought mayonnaise, seasoning packets, bouillon cubes. What do these products have in common? Absurd amounts of sodium, chemical additives, and in many cases, hidden sugars. You could be eating a beautiful, colorful salad full of fresh vegetables, and then pour an industrial dressing over it that transforms the whole thing into a metabolic bomb. Fatty liver almost always coexists with high blood pressure, and excess sodium aggravates all of that. The swap I suggest is simple and affordable: extra virgin olive oil, freshly squeezed lemon juice, fresh herbs like basil and rosemary, and raw apple cider vinegar. Anything that comes in an industrial packet with a list of ingredients you can't pronounce is an enemy of your liver. And speaking of hidden enemies, what comes next shocks most people when I tell them in my office. But before we continue, if this video is helping you see your liver in a new light, give it a like. It's not for me. It's because that gesture makes the YouTube algorithm take this information to other people who need it and don't know it yet. And if you're not subscribed to this channel yet, subscribe and hit the bell. I want to know where you're watching from. Write your city or state in the comments. I love seeing where people are coming from when they commit to their own health. Villain number 3, sugary drinks. And here I include something that will surprise a lot of people: natural fruit juices. Yes, natural juices too. Let me explain, because I know this contradicts everything you were taught. When you squeeze an orange or a grape, you remove most of the fiber from that fruit and concentrate the sugar into a liquid. You can drink the equivalent of 5 or 6 pieces of fruit in 3 minutes without feeling full at all. The problem isn't the vitamin C in the orange. The problem is that you are delivering a huge load of sugar to the liver all at once, without the fiber that should be there to slow down that absorption. And what happens to that excess sugar in the liver? It converts to fat. That's the mechanism. The liver transforms excess glucose and fructose into triglycerides, and those triglycerides get stored right there in the liver tissue. If you already have fatty liver, every glass of natural juice you drink every day is feeding the exact problem you want to solve. Eat the whole fruit, with the skin whenever possible, with all the fiber. Villain number 2, deli meats and processed meats. Pepperoni, bacon, sausage, hot dogs, bologna, even that deli turkey that many people buy thinking it's healthy because it's turkey. These products are loaded with nitrates, nitrites, preservatives, and massive amounts of sodium. I have to tell you the story of one of my patients. Mr. Bill, 68 years old, retired, a man dedicated to his family who thought he ate reasonably well. But every day at lunch, a plate of deli meats and sausages was the habit he had kept since he was young. When he came to my office, his liver enzymes were elevated, his triglycerides were through the roof, and his blood pressure was out of control. When I analyzed his habits, those daily processed meats were silently contributing to that entire picture. We removed the processed meats and adjusted his diet. In 4 months, his labs returned to a much safer level. Bill told me, "Doctor, I never thought that was killing me slowly." Eliminating processed meats doesn't just benefit the liver. It benefits the heart, the blood vessels, and your blood pressure. It's a small decision with a huge impact. And we've reached the #1 villain, the main culprit behind the fatty liver epidemic we are living through. The #1 enemy of your liver is sugar and refined carbohydrates. I'm not just talking about the spoonful of sugar in your coffee, though if you still do that, it's time to stop. I'm talking about white bread, refined pasta, cookies, cakes, crackers, and white flour in general. When you eat these foods, your blood glucose rises rapidly. Your pancreas releases a large amount of insulin to deal with that spike. And chronically high insulin sends a direct message to the liver. Convert this excess into fat and store it here. This isn't speculation. It's the biological mechanism that science has proven repeatedly. Major international studies published in the Journal of Hepatology point to insulin resistance as the main driver behind non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Think of it like a bank account where you never stop depositing but you never withdraw. The liver keeps accumulating fat until one day the account overflows. And that overflow is called inflammation, fibrosis, or cirrhosis. I had a patient, Susan, 63 years old, a retired teacher, who came to the consultation scared because of an ultrasound that showed grade 2 fatty liver. She didn't drink. She didn't smoke. But the white toast with butter in the morning, the white rice at lunch, the crackers in the afternoon, and the pastry on Sundays had been her companions for decades. We replaced the refined carbs with whole grain versions, eliminated added sugar, and increased protein and good fats. In 6 months, her follow-up ultrasound showed significant improvement. She called me emotional, saying she had also lost 15 pounds without going on a restrictive diet, just by removing what was destroying her liver. That is the difference the right information makes. Now comes the part I like best. The 11 allies of your liver, the strategies that science shows can help your liver recover. Let's get to them. Ally number 11, moderate and gradual weight loss. Studies are very clear on this point. A loss of just 5% of body weight can already lead to the regression of steatosis. To improve liver inflammation, a loss of 7 to 10% is usually necessary. This data comes from scientific reviews published in the most respected gastroenterology journals. But there is a fundamental detail that most people ignore. Weight loss must be gradual. Losing weight too fast can, paradoxically, harm the liver even more. When you go on an extremely restrictive diet and lose many pounds in a few weeks, a large amount of fatty acids is released into the bloodstream all at once, overloading the very organ you want to protect. The safe pace is about 1 to 2 pounds per week. No rush, no radical diet, just consistency. Ally number 10. Investigate and treat associated diseases. Fatty liver rarely appears alone. It almost always comes with diabetes or prediabetes, high blood pressure, and altered cholesterol. If you treat the liver but leave your diabetes uncontrolled, the liver will continue to receive the signal to store fat. If your blood pressure is through the roof and you don't treat it, the liver suffers the consequences. It's like emptying a bucket that has a hole in the bottom. Regular follow-ups with your primary care doctor and controlling these associated conditions are a fundamental part of the treatment. Don't skip this step. Alley number 9. Regular exercise. There is no capsule, no pill, and no tea that replaces movement. International guidelines recommend at least 150 minutes per week of moderate intensity physical activity. That's 30 minutes, 5 times a week. A brisk walk in the park counts. A swimming class counts. Riding a bike counts. And if you can add resistance exercise, like light weightlifting or resistance bands, even better. Strength training improves insulin sensitivity. And remember that insulin resistance is the main engine of fatty liver. When you improve that sensitivity, you are attacking the problem at its root. Ally number 8, quality sleep. This isn't self-help talk. It's pure physiology. When you sleep less than 6 hours a night on a recurring basis, cortisol, the so-called stress hormone, stays chronically elevated. High cortisol promotes the accumulation of visceral fat, the fat that sits around your internal organs. And that visceral fat is drained directly into the portal system, the pathway that carries blood directly to the liver. In practical terms, high visceral fat means your liver is being bombarded with fatty acids around the clock. The ideal is 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep per night. If you snore heavily or wake up several times for no apparent reason, it could be sleep apnea, which is an independent risk factor for fatty liver. It deserves medical investigation. Alley number 7. Fiber, especially chia and ground flaxseed. When you add fiber to your meals, you are slowing down the absorption of glucose by the intestine. Fewer glucose spikes means fewer insulin spikes, which means less signal for the liver to store fat. It's like putting a toll booth on a high-speed highway. The traffic doesn't stop, but it stays controlled. A tablespoon of chia or ground flaxseed over your salad, mixed into plain yogurt or in a low-sugar smoothie, already makes a difference. Plus, both flax and chia contain good fats that help your cholesterol profile. Start today. Ally number 6, extra virgin olive oil. I want to debunk a myth before I continue. Many people ask me if heated olive oil becomes toxic. The answer is no. Within normal cooking temperatures, the smoke point of extra virgin olive oil is high enough for a normal sauté. What you shouldn't do is put olive oil in a pan at maximum temperature for a long time. For everyday use, whether in salads or for lightly sautéing vegetables, olive oil is your ally. It is rich in monounsaturated fats that help good cholesterol, HDL, and contains antioxidants with proven anti-inflammatory properties. In the Mediterranean diet, which is the best-studied eating pattern in the world for metabolic diseases, olive oil is the foundation. Use it. Alley number 5. Water. It seems obvious, but most patients I see are chronically dehydrated without realizing it. The brain often confuses thirst with hunger. You think you're hungry, you eat something processed, and in reality, you just needed water. The result is more load for the liver to process. The general rule is about half your body weight in ounces of water per day. If you weigh 160 pounds, that's about 80 ounces. For most people, drinking water regularly throughout the day is one of the simplest and most effective things you can do for your liver health. But what comes next is even more important. Stay with me, because the next 5 allies are where the real change happens. Ally number 4, natural anti-inflammatory foods. Fatty liver is not just a problem of fat accumulation. It is also an active inflammatory process, and nature has given us powerful tools to fight that inflammation through food. Coffee, for example. I know there is debate around this, but the data is consistent and robust. Multiple studies show that people with fatty liver who consume coffee regularly have a lower degree of liver damage compared to those who don't. Coffee contains polyphenols with well-documented antioxidant properties. I'm not saying coffee cures fatty liver. I'm saying it can be an ally within a context of a healthy lifestyle. Dark chocolate with 70% or more cocoa also contains polyphenols with anti-inflammatory potential. But be careful. I'm talking about real dark chocolate, not milk chocolate bars full of sugar. And garlic, with its allicin, has well-documented anti-inflammatory properties. Use it generously in your cooking. One important disclaimer: do not convert these foods into supplements on your own. There are reports of severe hepatitis associated with high-dose green tea capsules. What is healthy as a food can be problematic as a concentrated supplement. Always talk to your doctor before starting any supplementation. Ally number 3, vegetables and greens in abundance. This is the foundation of everything. Dark leafy greens, broccoli, cauliflower, cucumber, zucchini, carrots, green beans. These foods are rich in fiber, vitamins, and minerals, and when you eat a lot of vegetables, you naturally eat less of what is bad for you. A strategy that works very well is to start every meal with a salad. When you are already partially full from vegetables, you eat less rice, less bread, less refined carbohydrate. You don't need to go hungry. You need to reorganize the proportions of your plate. Think of the ideal plate like this: half vegetables and greens, 1/4 quality protein, and 1/4 carbohydrate, preferably whole grain. This simple proportion, applied consistently, transforms your metabolism over the weeks. Ally number 2, lean protein. And here, I know many people have doubts about eggs. I'll be direct. Yes, you can eat the whole egg, even if you have fatty liver. The yolk contains choline, an essential nutrient for the liver's own function. 1 to 2 eggs a day is completely reasonable for most people. Besides eggs, skinless chicken, fish, and legumes like beans, lentils, and chickpeas are excellent sources of protein. And cold water fish, like sardines, salmon, and tuna, are especially interesting because they are rich in omega-3, a fat with a proven anti-inflammatory effect that benefits both the liver and the heart. And we've reached the number 1 ally, the most powerful of all and, by far, the most underestimated. Ally number 1, low glycemic fruits consumed whole. I know what you're thinking, but, doctor, fruit has fructose and fructose is bad for the liver. You're partly right. Excess fructose, especially in concentrated form like juice or soda, does indeed overload the liver. But whole fruit, with all its fiber, is a completely different story. When you eat an apple with the skin, the fiber in the apple modulates the speed at which the fructose is absorbed. There is no abrupt spike. The liver processes it smoothly, at the right pace. The best options for those with fatty liver are berries, strawberries, avocados, plums, and apples with the skin. These fruits have a low glycemic index and high nutrient density. As I said, eat the orange. Don't drink the juice. Nature was wise enough to pack the sugar along with the antidote, which is the fiber. I had a recent patient, Margaret, 57 years old, a nurse who came to me concerned because her own ultrasound had shown grade 1 fatty liver. She, who advised patients on healthy habits, had fatty liver. We analyzed her habits together and discovered that her habit of drinking 2 glasses of natural orange juice in the morning, convinced it was extremely healthy, was a contributing factor. When we changed those specific choices and adjusted the rest of her diet, in 5 months, the follow-up ultrasound showed complete regression. She told me, "Doctor, I was teaching this to my patients, and I wasn't applying it to myself. The right information at the right time makes all the difference." And now comes the most important part of this entire conversation, the part that separates those who just listened from those who are going to change. Before I give you the practical summary, I need to ask you a direct question. How many of these 7 villains do you still consume regularly? Be honest with yourself. And how many of the 11 allies are already in your daily life? Write it in the comments. No judgment. This honest self-analysis is the first step toward any real change, because the liver doesn't hurt while it's being destroyed, but it gives indirect signals that most people ignore. Excessive fatigue with no apparent cause, a feeling of heaviness in the right side of the abdomen, lab results with elevated liver enzymes, triglycerides out of control. These are the warnings the liver manages to send, and when they arrive, the window for reversal is still open. The problem is that when severe symptoms appear, that window is already closing. Don't wait for severe symptoms. Don't wait for cirrhosis. The window of opportunity to reverse this process is now, in the early and moderate stages, when the liver still has its full capacity to regenerate. Here is what you need to do starting today, not tomorrow, not next Monday. Today. First, eliminate or drastically reduce the 7 villains. The ultra-processed foods that fill the supermarket shelves and your pantry. The excessive saturated fats. Alcohol, with no exceptions. The industrial condiments and sauces. Sugary drinks and fruit juices. The deli meats and processed meats. And the sugar along with refined carbohydrates like white bread and pasta. Second, gradually add the 11 allies. Gradual weight loss. Control of associated diseases with regular medical follow-up. Regular exercise, at least 150 minutes per week. Quality sleep. Fiber, especially chia and ground flaxseed. Extra virgin olive oil as your primary cooking and seasoning fat. Adequate water intake throughout the day. Natural anti-inflammatory foods like coffee, garlic, and dark chocolate. Vegetables in abundance, half of every plate. Lean protein through eggs, fish, chicken, and legumes. And low glycemic fruits consumed whole. Third, and this step is not optional, seek medical follow-up. What I am sharing here is high-quality scientific information, organized in a clear and accessible way. But every person has a unique medical history. Only your doctor can evaluate the degree of your condition, investigate associated issues, and personalize a treatment plan for you. An abdominal ultrasound and a complete liver panel can change the course of your health in the coming years. Don't postpone that appointment. Don't wait to feel pain. The liver doesn't hurt while it's being destroyed. Think about what this organ does for you every day without asking for anything in return. It filters your blood. It produces bile for digestion. It stores energy. It processes hormones. It neutralizes toxins. It produces proteins essential for blood clotting. It regulates cholesterol. The liver performs more than 500 different functions in your body, non-stop, while you sleep, while you work, while you care for those you love. And it does all this in silence, without complaining, without warning when it is suffering, until the day it can no longer compensate. Caring for your liver is not an act of vanity. It is respecting the organ that works hardest so that all the others can function. It is ensuring that you will have energy, disposition, and health for the people and moments that matter most in your life. I had a patient, Joe, 71 years old, a grandfather of 4, who came to the consultation convinced that his health problems were inevitable for his age. Elevated liver enzymes, high triglycerides, chronic fatigue. When we analyzed his diet, the 7 villains were all present, some of them daily for decades. We started slow, one change at a time. First, the white bread was replaced by whole grain. Then the deli meats at lunch were eliminated. Then a 30-minute walk 3 times a week. In 8 months, his values almost all normalized. But what he told me in the last consultation stayed with me. He said, "Doctor, I thought at 70 years old there was nothing left to do. That it was too late, turns out it wasn't. It is never too late in the early and moderate phases. And if you are watching this video, you are still within that window." If this video was useful to you, if you learned something that is going to change your diet or your habits, do one simple thing. Share this video with someone you care about, with that family member who has fatty liver and doesn't know what to do, with that friend whose labs are off and hasn't made the decision to act yet, with that person who keeps saying they're going to change but never found the right information to start. With this information in the right hands, at the right time, it is possible to change the course of someone's health. In the next video, I'm going to reveal the 5 blood tests that every adult over 50 should have, and that most doctors don't order in a routine consultation. It's going to be content that might surprise you. Don't miss it. I'm Dr. Sarah Mitchell. Take care of your liver. It takes care of you every single day. Until the next video. And I wish you great health.